I'm Cath. My channel is made by Cath Craft, and if you've watched my channel before, you'll know that I love sewing my own handmade wardrobe. But I do find at the end of a dressmaking project that I'm often left with a smaller fabric remnant left over, and I like to make use of those fabric remnants. So in this video, I'm going to share my favourite ways for scrap busting using up those small fabric remnants left over from sewing projects. I've got a whole load of different ways that I like to use them, and I've got some free patterns to share along the way too. So hopefully you'll find this video helpful, and maybe it'll give you a bit of inspiration for using up your leftover fabric remnants and doing a bit of scrap busting too. So my first favourite way to use up fabric remnants, and this is particularly for jersey fabric remnants, is to make knickers. Handmade knickers are something that I've only started making recently. I think when I first started sewing I was a little bit put off the idea of making any lingerie, thinking it'll be quite tricky with the elastic insertion and that sort of thing. But actually, since I've started sewing my own handmade knickers, I found them really easy to sew and they're really comfy to wear too. And they are quite small, the pieces are quite small for the patterns, so they're perfect for using up smaller jersey scraps. So I've got two patterns that I really recommend if you want to have a go at sewing your own handmade knickers and doing a bit of scrap busting for some of your small, cute jersey leftover scraps. The first pattern is this one here, which is the Tilly and the Buttons Iris knickers, which they made in conjunction with Evie Lelouve. It's a really nice knickers pattern, and what I like about this one is it's got a really good size range. It goes from a UK 6 up to a UK 34, but also there are lots of different variations built in. So I'll show you the line drawings here. There are different waistlines included and also different sort of leg hole opening options too. And it tells you in the pattern how to make your own knickers with fold over elastic and also with lace elastic. So it's quite a comprehensive pattern, this one, if you want to have a go at making your own handmade knickers. And I find the instructions really good. So I thought I'd share a couple of pairs of knickers that I've made using this pattern and some of my leftover jersey scraps. So all of the knickers I've made so far have been made using scraps. This pair here was using a red stripy cotton jersey, and I didn't have quite enough of this to be able to cut all the stripes on the horizontal, so you can see at the back I've sort of scrap busted and made the stripes vertical on the back, which I think is quite cute and looks quite sweet. I've also got a pair in a blue stripy fabric that I used originally for a jersey dress, and I've got a couple of classic black knickers, again in fabrics left over from other dressmaking projects. And I personally quite like the fold over elastic option, so I've got a fold over elastic on my knickers. I went for a mid-rise, I went with my measurements, and they turned out really, really comfy. And there's one other knickers pattern that I'd really recommend, and this one is a free sewing pattern. So it's great, you can be extra frugal with this one, using a free pattern and also jersey scraps left over from other projects. And it is the Megan Nielsen Acacia Knickers pattern. And it's quite easy to get hold of this pattern. You need to sign up to the Megan Nielsen Patterns newsletter. I'll link the Megan Nielsen website down below. And then once you sign up to the newsletter, you then gain access to the Megan Nielsen free pattern library. And the Acacia Knickers pattern is another really size inclusive pattern. There are two size ranges available, a US 0 to 20 version, and then the curve version, which goes from a size 14 up to a size 30. And what's really cool about this pattern is there's also a children's version too, called the Mini Acacia Knickers. You can also download those for free, and they go from an age 3 to 12 for children. It's a really nice pattern, the Acacia Knickers pattern. It's a low-rise bikini cut knickers pattern, and it comes with 3 different options built in for different types of elastic you can use: fold over elastic, regular elastic and lingerie elastic. And this pattern also comes together really nicely. And what I particularly like about this pattern is the method for making the gusset. All the seams in the gusset are enclosed, and you do a burrito method, and it comes together really well. So I've used this pattern for my daughter, and she finds the mini acacia pants very comfy to wear, so I thought I'd share a few pairs that I've made for her, and they are perfect for using up teeny tiny scraps of jersey, because really you don't need a great deal for children's pants. So here are a few versions I've made for her, and they're all in leftover scraps that I've made dresses out of for her, jersey dresses. So you can see this one's got these cute little catacorns on, and then this pair here is a lovely turquoise cotton jersey with a unicorn print on, and I've added a little bow on the front of her knickers just so it's easier for her to tell which way around to put them on. And this version here is in this pink sprinkle fabric that I actually used for a set of leggings and a top for her. See, they're really comfy for her to wear. She prefers them to ready to wear ones, and perfect for using up tiny jersey scraps. So my next favourite way for using up fabric remnants left over from other projects is to make a cami style top. And this option works really well for both woven fabrics and jersey fabrics. I've got patterns to share that will cover both options. And I think this option works particularly well for fabrics that you really love and want to get some wear out of out and about and really showcase. And it's perfect for those smaller pieces left over of those. So the first pattern I've got to share is one for those woven fabric remnants left over. And it's this pattern here, the Ogden Cami pattern by True Bias. It's a really nice simple cami top pattern with just a front and back piece, two facing pieces on the inside and these spaghetti straps. And it's got this lovely deep V at the front and quite a boxy fit. And this pattern has a really good size range too. There are two size ranges available. There's a US size 0 to 18 and then a US size 14 to 30. And I love the Ogden Cami pattern. I think it's really wearable across the seasons. In summer it's great just a sort of simple cami top on its own, but in winter it's great for layering too. And there are quite a few ways that you can squeeze this top out of smaller fabric scraps. You can crop it a little bit to make a cropped version if you've got a little bit less fabric left over. And then the version I've made here that I've got to show you is one where I had enough fabric for the front and back, but not for the facing on the inside, so I used a different fabric for the facing. So this is my scrapbusting version here, and I made it in this really pretty viscose fabric that I got from Mind the Maker that I'd originally used to make a dress. And I had just enough to squeeze out the front and back pieces and the spaghetti straps, but not quite enough for the facing on the inside. So what I did was a bit more scrap busting. I used some black cotton lawn I had left over from another project for the inside facing pieces here. And that worked really well because it's a similar weight as a viscose fabric and you can't really see it at all on the outside anyway, so only I know it's in there. And it was a really nice way to enable me to squeeze the Ogden Cami out of this lovely fabric. And a great alternative option to the Ogden Cami that is a free pattern is this one here. It is the Etty camisole by Tammy Handmade. And this is a free pattern you can download if you go on the Tammy Handmade website, which I'll link down below. It has a similar relaxed sort of boxy fit to the Ogden Cami and a similar front and back piece and then facing pieces on the inside. So again, you could use a different piece of fabric for the inside facing pieces. And this pattern has this lovely scalloped edge detail at the front and a straight back. So it's slightly different in its styling to the Ogden Cami, but another great one for scrap busting those woven fabrics and being extra frugal by using a free pattern. And if you're looking to make a cami top out of jersey fabrics left over from other projects, then I'd really recommend this pattern here, which is the Zoe Tank and Dress pattern by True Bias. It's a really nice close-fitting jersey dress and top pattern with a V-neck, and it includes this cropped version here, which is perfect for scrap busting smaller amounts of jersey fabrics. This pattern has a really good size range too. There are two sizing bands available, a US size 0 to 18 and a US 14 to 30. And the cool thing about this pattern is there's also a free neckline extension available on the True Bias website, which I'll link down below, which means as well as the V-neck option, you can download a file to enable you to adjust the pattern pieces to also turn the neckline into a square neck or a sort of scoop round neck or higher neck version too. It's a really cool versatile pattern and great for those smaller jersey scraps. So I've made one version of the Zoe Tank to date, but I would like to make more. And my first version I made using leftover cotton jersey that I'd used on another project to make a dress. So here is my Zoe Tank. I made the cropped version, so I really didn't need too much fabric. And then I used the free add-on neckline to make the scoop neck here, because it's a bit more my style than the V-neck. And this top came together really well and it's really comfy to wear. I generally use it around the house in the summer as kind of a relaxed loungewear piece, but I think it'll be great to wear out and about too with maybe a pair of high-waisted shorts. So it's a great option, the Zoe Tank and Dress pattern, if you want to do a bit of scrap busting on those jersey fabrics. Another one of my favourite ways for using up smaller pieces of fabric left over from other projects is to use them for pocket bags, for skirts and trousers and dresses. And this is a really great way of using up those small pieces where you don't maybe have quite enough to squeeze another garment out. And what I like about pocket bags is they're often quite hidden, so you can have fun with a bright or different fabric without it being too visible, but it's nice there's that little pop of colour that makes your outfit unique to you. So I've got a few garments to share with you where I've had fun using fabric remnants for pocket bags. And the first garment is this one here, which is a skirt I made using the Megan Nielsen Brumby skirt pattern. And this is one of my real wardrobe staples. I really love this skirt, but I made it in quite a heavyweight denim fabric. So I decided to use a lighter weight fabric for the pocket facings just so the pockets didn't turn out too bulky, and that's worked really well. And the fabric I used was a leftover remnant I had from making myself a pair of pyjama bottoms quite a while ago. And I've still got the pyjama bottoms and I love the fabric that I've used, so it was really nice to be able to use up the leftover pieces. So I'll show you my pocket facings on this skirt. It's a cotton poplin fabric, so nice and lightweight compared to the heavy denim, which works really well together. And it's really cute. It's got these little clouds on the design and this navy blue colour. And I had enough of that fabric to be able to use it for the waistband facing too, so I've got it on the inside of the waistband as well. And that again works really well because it's lighter weight. I think 2 layers of denim would have really been too bulky around the waistband of this skirt. So you can't see the fabric when I'm wearing this skirt, but I know it's in there and it makes me smile, and it was nice to use up those scraps too. And the next garment I've got to share is actually one where I didn't have enough of the fabric to make the pocket bags, but I wanted to add pockets. And it's this dress here. This is a mash-up dress I made using a couple of different patterns and using this really pretty Atelier Brunette viscose fabric. But because it was a mash-up dress, I wasn't exactly sure how much I'd need for this dress, and I did find I didn't have quite enough for the pocket bags. So I decided to delve into my fabric remnants pile, and I found some cute, fun fabric remnants to use for these pocket bags, and I'll show you them here. So here are the pocket bags, and I've used a Mind the Maker viscose twill fabric that I had left over from making a skirt for myself. And it's a similar weight to the viscose fabric I've used for the dress, so it works really well. And again, I've kind of inset the pocket bags a little bit so you can't see them when I'm wearing the dress, but I think they're quite fun and I know they're in there, and they work really well to make the dress more practical with pockets added, and it was a nice way to use up these quite pretty scraps. And then I also used fabric scraps left over from another project for the pocket bags on this skirt here, which is the Tulip skirt by Sew Over It. And again, this skirt is in a slightly bulkier fabric. It's a cotton twill fabric, so I thought it would work really well to use a lighter weight fabric for the pocket bags so they didn't get too bulky. So I'll show you a peek at the pocket bags here. I used a cotton lawn fabric left over from a dress that I'd previously made for Christmas. And I quite like this skirt at Christmas time too because of the red colour, and I love how these pocket bags give it an extra Christmassy feel. My next favourite way for using up leftover fabric scraps is to make bias binding out of them. And I really love a bias bound finish on a garment, particularly on a neckline or an armhole, or it can also work really well to enclose a seam. And I think it can add a really pretty unique detail to a garment too. And often if you want to make enough bias binding for a neckline, you don't need a great deal of fabric to do that, so it works really well for smaller pieces of fabric. And I think it particularly works well if you've got a lightweight cotton or a viscose challis or something along those lines. So I've got a couple of garments to share with you where I used leftover scrap fabrics to make bias binding to give a really nice finish to those garments. And I've also got a new free pattern to share that also makes great use of bias binding and is generally a great scrap busting pattern for using up fabric remnants too. So the first garment I've got to share is this dress here, which I made using the plum dress pattern by Cocoa Craft, which is a really pretty pattern, and it calls for the neckline to be finished in bias binding. So I made this version of the plum dress in this lovely double gauze fabric, but I thought the double gauze fabric would be a bit too bulky for the bias binding on the neckline. So I decided to make some bias binding using leftover fabric from another project. And this fabric is a really pretty viscose linen blend fabric that I'd originally used on a play suit that I'd made. And I had enough left to make this bias binding and finish the neckline. And I think it adds a really pretty detail to this dress. And it also works really well because it's a little bit lighter weight, so the neckline doesn't end up too bulky. And I actually had just enough of this fabric also to make pocket bags in that fabric too, so I'll show you a peek in the pockets. So the bias bound neckline and the pockets match on this dress, which I think adds a really pretty handmade touch to it. And then I've got another dress to share, again where I used leftover scraps to make the bias binding for the neckline, and it's this dress here, which is my Bakerloo dress by Nina Lee London. I really love this dress and I made it in this really pretty corduroy fabric. It is a baby cord, so it's a lightweight corduroy, but again I thought it would be that little bit too bulky for bias binding around the neckline. So instead I used some cotton lawn fabric I had left over from another project. I actually originally used this fabric to add a ruffle onto a Bakerloo blouse I made, and I had enough left over to make this bias binding finish on the neckline. And I find the Bakerloo and blouse and dress neckline quite a fiddly one to finish, so having a nice stable cotton lawn for the bias binding made it that little bit easier. And again for this dress, just like with the plum dress, I also used the navy blue cotton lawn fabric for the pocket bags too, again, so there wasn't too much bulk there. So another dress where a scrap fabric worked really well to finish it off and give a really nice finish to the final garment. I also thought I'd mention a great new pattern that's been released recently that you can download for free, and it's perfect for using up bias binding that you might have made from fabric scraps, and it's generally quite a good pattern for scrap busting too, and it's this pattern here, which is the Sport Shorts pattern by Friday Pattern Co. It's a really nice woven shorts pattern. I'll show you the line drawing so you can see how good it is for scrap busting. It's a woven shorts pattern with a bias binding detail on the pocket and around the edges here. And the actual sports shorts pattern pieces are quite small in themselves. So this pattern is designed so it's perfect for using up leftover fabric remnants. And it's got a really good size range to it too. It goes from a size 0 up to a size 32, which takes you up to hips of 63 inches. And if you want to get this pattern, you just need to go on the Friday Pattern Co website, and I'll link it down below. And you can either download the pattern for free, or you can choose to contribute a certain amount to obtain the pattern. But it's a really great one for using up scraps, and a fun one to try out some bias binding and maybe making a feature of some leftover scrap fabrics too. So my final favourite way of using up those leftover scrap fabrics is what I would probably call the ultimate scrap busting pattern, and it is the closet core poof sewing pattern. This is another free pattern and it's quite easy to get hold of. You need to go on the Closet Core Patterns website, which I'll link down below. And then if you subscribe to their newsletter, you'll gain access to their entire free pattern catalogue. And there are quite a few cool free patterns in there. There's also a free pattern for a dog coat, one for a sewing machine cover, for a t-shirt, so all sorts there. And the Closet Core Poof is such a great scrap buster of a pattern because not only can you make the poof using fabric remnants, but it's also designed to be filled with fabric remnants too. And I'll put a picture up of the poof so you can see what it looks like. As you can see, the poof is made up on the top with little sort of segments, almost pizza shapes of fabrics. They're quite small pieces, so you can eke it out of fairly small fabric scraps, and that continues down the sides as well. The sides designed to be sewn in sort of rectangles of small fabrics. And the bottom is a couple of larger pieces required for the bottom and a zip at the bottom so you can open it up and fill it with all the scraps. And it comes together really well. It's a really fun project to sew. And what's great is that once you finish making the casing, you can then stuff it with all those really tiny fabric scraps that are hard to find a use for. So it works really well as a scrap buster. And I've made several versions of the Closet Core Poof and I really enjoy sewing, and I'll show you some of my versions up here. So I've made a couple of versions of the Closet Core Poof which we have downstairs in our house, and I'll put pictures up of those versions here now. And they get a lot of use. They're perfect for popping your feet up on, or my children sometimes use them as a playing surface. They're really nice to have about the house. And then I also scaled down the pattern pieces for the Closet Core Poof and made 2 mini poofs for my children's rooms, and I'll pop up pictures of those too. And they really love having them in their rooms. They use them to sort of step up on to reach higher things on the shelves or to sit on and read. They do get a lot of use, the Closet Core Poofs, in our house. And it is pattern, like I mentioned, I really enjoy sewing too. One thing that's worth mentioning is if you're using a lighter weight fabric to start the pattern, it's worth interfacing it to make sure you have a bit of stability to it. And one other cool thing is that the poof includes an option to add on piping around the circles on the top and the bottom of the poof. And to make that piping, you need bias binding to encase the piping. So you can also use up extra fabric scraps to make that bias binding for the piping too. And I've added piping on a couple of my poofs and I think it adds a really nice touch. So yeah, it's a great scrap busting pattern, and once you've actually got your poof finished, you wouldn't believe how many scraps fit inside, so it is great for getting rid of all those little tiny pieces of scraps that you don't know what else to do with. So that was my final favourite way of using up those fabric remnants that I think we all have around the house left over from our sewing and dressmaking projects. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and hopefully found some inspiration for doing some scrap busting yourself. I really enjoy putting those fabric scraps to good use and turn them into useful wearable items and garments that I can really enjoy. I think it's much better than having them sitting around the house gathering dust. So if you've enjoyed this video, then please do give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, then please do subscribe and press the bell icon so you can be notified about my future videos and hear all about my dressmaking adventures, including pattern reviews, pattern hacks, new fabrics, new handmade garments, and all of that sort of thing. So thank you very much for watching. Happy scrap busting, and I will see you again soon. Bye!